The Boscombe Valley Mystery. In this chapter, Holmes and Watson are summoned to the countryside to investigate the brutal murder of a man named McCarthy, where the prime suspect is the man's own son. Holmes must navigate a web of circumstantial evidence and family secrets to uncover the truth of what happened by the Boscombe pool. We were seated at breakfast one morning, my wife and I, when the maid brought in a telegram.
Sound of a telegram paper, rustling.
It was from Sherlock Holmes and ran, "Have you a couple of days to spare? Have just been wired for from the west of England in connection with Boscombe Valley tragedy. Shall be glad if you will come with me. Air and scenery perfect. Leave Paddington by the 11,000 when feed."
What do you say, dear? Will you go?
I really don't know what to say. I have a fairly long list at present.
Oh, Anne Struther would do your work for you. You have been looking a little pale lately. I think that the change would do you good, and you are always so interested in Mr. Sherlock Holmes's cases.
I should be ungrateful if I were not, seeing what I gained through one of them. But if I am to go, I must pack at once, for I have only half an hour. My experience of camp life in Afghanistan had made me a prompt traveler. In less than the time stated, I was in a cab, rattling away to Paddington Station. Sherlock Holmes was pacing the platform, his tall, gaunt figure made even gaunter by his long gray traveling cloak.
"It is really very good of you to come, Watson. It makes a considerable difference to me, having someone with me on whom I can thoroughly rely. Local aid is always either worthless or biased. If you will keep the two corner seats, I shall get the tickets."
We had the carriage to ourselves. Holmes rummaged through an immense litter of papers until we were past Reading. Then he suddenly rolled them all into a gigantic ball and tossed them up onto the rack.
"Have you heard anything of the case?"
Not a word. I have not seen a paper for some days.
The London press has not had very full accounts. It seems to be one of those simple cases which are so extremely difficult.
That sounds a little paradoxical.
But it is profoundly true. Singularity is almost invariably a clue. In this case, however, they have established a very serious case against the son of the murdered man.
It is a murder, then?
It is conjectured to be so. Boscombe Valley is a country district near Ross. The largest proprietor is a Mr. John Turner, who made his money in Australia. One of his farms was let to Mr. Charles McCarthy, also an ex-Australian. They had known each other in the colonies. McCarthy had one son, a lad of 18, and Turner had a daughter of the same age. Both were widowers. On Monday last, McCarthy left his house around 3 in the afternoon to walk to the Boscombe pool. He told his serving man he had an appointment of importance. From that appointment, he never came back alive. 2 people saw him pass, an old woman and William Crowder, a gamekeeper. Both say Mr. McCarthy was walking alone. The gamekeeper adds that within a few minutes he saw the son, James McCarthy, going the same way with a gun under his arm. He believes the son was following the father. After this, a girl of 14, Patience Moran, was in the woods picking flowers. She saw Mr. McCarthy and his son by the lake having a violent quarrel. She heard the father using very strong language and saw the son raise his hand as if to strike him. She was so frightened she ran away. She had hardly told her mother when young McCarthy came running to their lodge. He said he had found his father dead. He was excited without his gun or hat, and his right hand and sleeve were stained with fresh blood. The body was stretched by the pool, head beaten in by a blunt weapon. The butt end of the son's gun, found nearby, could have inflicted the injuries. The young man was instantly arrested.
I could hardly imagine a more damning case. If ever circumstantial evidence pointed to a criminal, it does so here.
Circumstantial evidence is a very tricky thing. It may seem to point straight to one thing, but if you shift your point of view, you may find it pointing somewhere entirely different. However, some people, including Miss Turner, believe in his innocence and have retained Lestrade to work on the case. Lestrade, being puzzled, has referred it to me.
I am afraid the facts are so obvious that you will find little credit to be gained.
There is nothing more deceptive than an obvious fact. Besides, we may chance to hit upon some other obvious facts which were by no means obvious to Mr. Lestrade. For example, I perceive that in your bedroom, the window is upon the right-hand side.
How on earth?
My dear fellow, I know your military neatness. You shave every morning by sunlight. Since your shaving is less complete on the left side of your jaw, it is clear that side is less illuminated. I only quote this as a trivial example of observation and inference. Therein lies my métier. There are one or two minor points from the inquest. After his arrest, the young man remarked that he was not surprised and that it was no more than his deserts. This naturally removed any doubt from the jury's minds.
It was a confession.
No, for it was followed by a protestation of innocence. On the contrary, it is the brightest rift I can see in the clouds. He could not be such an imbecile as not to see the circumstances were black against him. His frank acceptance marks him as either an innocent man or a man of considerable firmness. The self-reproach in his remark appears to me to be the sign of a healthy mind, not a guilty one.
Many men have been hanged on far slighter evidence.
So they have, and many men have been wrongfully hanged. The young man's own account is not very encouraging, though there are suggestive points. You may read it for yourself.
I settled down in the corner of the carriage to read his testimony from the local paper.
I had been away from home for 3 days at Bristol and had only just returned that morning. Shortly after my return, I took my gun and strolled out in the direction of the Boscombe pool. On my way, I saw William Crowder, but he's mistaken in thinking I was following my father. I had no idea he was in front of me. When about 100 yards from the pool, I heard a cry of "Cooey!" which was a usual signal between us. I hurried forward and found him there. A conversation ensued which led to high words. Seeing his passion was becoming ungovernable, I left him. I had not gone more than 150 yards when I heard a hideous outcry which caused me to run back. I found my father expiring on the ground. I held him in my arms, but he almost instantly expired. I have no idea how he came by his injuries.
Did your father make any statement before he died?
He mumbled a few words, but I could only catch some allusion to a rat.
What was the point upon which you and your father had this final quarrel?
I should prefer not to answer. It has nothing to do with the sad tragedy.
I must still refuse. How was it then that he uttered the cry of "Cooeys" before he saw you?
I do not know.
Did you see nothing which aroused your suspicions when you returned?
Nothing definite. I have a vague impression that as I ran forward, something lay upon the ground to the left of me, something gray, a coat of some sort. When I rose from my father, I looked round for it, but it was gone, disappeared before I went for help.
Both you and the coroner have been at some pains to single out the very strongest points in the young man's favor. Don't you see you give him credit for having too much imagination, and too little? Too little if he could not invent a cause of quarrel, too much if he evolved a dying reference to a rat and the vanishing cloth. No, sir, I shall approach this case from the point of view that what this young man says is true. And now, here is my pocket, Petrarch, and not another word until we are on the scene of action.
It was nearly 4 o'clock when we found ourselves at Ross. A lean, ferret-like man was waiting for us. I had no difficulty in recognizing Lestrade of Scotland Yard. With him, we drove to the Hereford Arms.
I have ordered a carriage. I knew your energetic nature and that you would not be happy until you had been on the scene of the crime.
It is entirely a question of barometric pressure. The glass is at 29. No wind, not a cloud. I have a case full of cigarettes here which need smoking. I do not think that it is probable that I shall use the carriage tonight.
You have, no doubt, already formed your conclusions. The case is as plain as a pikestaff. Still, one can't refuse a lady. She would have your opinion, though I told her there was nothing you could do which I had not already done.
He had hardly spoken before there rushed into the room one of the most lovely young women that I have ever seen.
Oh, Mr. Sherlock Holmes, I am so glad that you have come. I know that James didn't do it. I know it, and I want you to start upon your work knowing it too. He is too tender-hearted to hurt a fly. Such a charge is absurd.
I hope we may clear him, Miss Turner. You may rely upon my doing all that I can.
But you have read the evidence. Do you not yourself think that he is innocent? He is innocent. John.
I think that it is very probable.
There, now, you hear? He gives me hopes.
I am afraid that my colleague has been a little quick in forming his conclusions.
But he is right. And about his quarrel with his father, I am sure the reason he would not speak was because I was concerned in it. Mr. McCarthy was very anxious that there should be a marriage between us. James and I have always loved each other as brother and sister, but he naturally did not wish to do anything like that yet. So there were quarrels.
And your father? Was he in favor of such a union?
No, he was averse to it also. Poor father has never been strong, but this has broken him down completely. He has taken to his bed. Mr. McCarthy was the only man alive who had known Dad in the old days in Victoria.
Yeah, in Victoria, that is important.
Yes, at the mines.
Thank you, Ms. Turner. You have been of material assistance to me.
Oh, if you see James, Mr. Holmes, do tell him that I know him to be innocent. I must go home now. Dad is very ill. Goodbye, and God help you.
I am ashamed of you, Holmes. Why should you raise up hopes which you are bound to disappoint? I call it cruel.
I think that I see my way to clearing James McCarthy. Have you an order to see him in prison? Then I shall reconsider my resolution. We have still time to take a train to Hereford and see him tonight.
It was late before Sherlock Holmes returned. He came back alone.
The glass still keeps very high. It is of importance that it should not rain before we go over the ground. I have seen young McCarthy.
And what did you learn from him?
Nothing. He is as puzzled as everyone else, but thereby hangs a painful tale. This fellow is madly in love with her, but some 2 years ago, he got into the clutches of a barmaid in Bristol and married her at a registry office. No one knows. You can imagine how maddening it must be to be upbraided for not proposing to Miss Turner. It was with his barmaid wife that he had spent the last 3 days. His father did not know where he was. Mark that point. The barmaid, however, has written to him to say that she has a husband already, so there is really no tie between them.
But if he is innocent, who has done it?
Ah, who? I would call your attention to 2 points. 1. The murdered man had an appointment with someone who could not have been his son. The second is that he cried, "Cooey!" before he knew his son had returned. Those are the crucial points. And now let us talk about George Meredith, if you please.
The morning broke bright and cloudless. At 9 o'clock, Lestrade called for us, and we set off for Hatherley Farm and the Boscombe Pool.
There is serious news this morning. Mr. Turner, of the Hall, is so ill that his life is despaired of.
Indeed, that is interesting.
Oh, yes. He was a great benefactor to McCarthy, gave him Hatherley Farm rent-free.
Really? Does it not strike you as singular that this McCarthy, under such obligations to Turner, should talk of marrying his son to Turner's daughter in such a cocksure manner, especially since Turner himself was averse to the idea? Do you not deduce something from that?
We have got to the deductions and the inferences. I find it hard enough to tackle facts, Holmes.
You are right. You do find it very hard to tackle the facts.
Anyhow, I have grasped one fact. McCarthy Sr. met his death from McCarthy Jr., and all theories to the contrary are the merest moonshine.
Well, moonshine is a brighter thing than fog.
Sherlock Holmes was transformed. His face flushed and darkened. His brows were drawn into two hard black lines. His mind was so absolutely concentrated upon the matter that a question fell unheeded. We followed the winding track to Boscombe Pool. Holmes ran round, like a dog picking up a scent.
What did you go into the pool for?
I fished about with a rake. I thought there might be some weapon, but how on earth?
Oh, tut, tut, I have no time. That left foot of yours is all over the place. Oh, how simple it would all have been had I been here before they came, like a herd of buffalo. Here are 3 separate tracks of the same feet. These are young McCarthy's. Twice he was walking, and once he ran swiftly. That bears out his story. Then here are the father's feet. And this? Ha ha! What have we here? Tiptoes, square, unusual boots, they come, they go. Of course, that was for the cloak. Now, where did they come from?
He traced his way to the farther side of a great beech tree and lay down with a little cry of satisfaction. For a long time he remained there, gathering what seemed to be dust into an envelope. A jagged stone was lying among the moss, and this also he carefully examined and retained.
It has been a case of considerable interest. I think that I will go in and have a word with Moran, and perhaps write a little note. You may walk to the cab, and I shall be with you presently.
It was 10 minutes before we drove back into Ross, Holmes still carrying the stone.
This may interest you, Lestrade. The murder was done with it.
I see no marks.
There are none. The grass was growing under it. It corresponds with the injuries. There is no sign of any other weapon.
And the murderer
is a tall man, left-handed, limps with the right leg, wears thick-soled shooting boots and a gray cloak, smokes Indian cigars, uses a cigar holder, and carries a blunt penknife.
I am afraid that I am still a skeptic. Theories are all very well, but we have to deal with a hard-headed British jury.
Nous verrons. I shall be busy this afternoon and shall probably return to London by the evening train.
And leave your case unfinished?
No, finished. The mystery is solved.
At our hotel, Holmes was silent and buried in thought.
Look here, Watson. I don't know quite what to do, and I should value your advice. Light a cigar and let me expound. Now, young McCarthy's father cried, "Cooey!" before seeing him, and his singular dying reference was to a rat. What of this cooey? Obviously, it could not have been meant for the son. It was meant for whoever he had the appointment with. But cooeys is a distinctly Australian cry. There is a strong presumption that the person was someone who had been in Australia.
What of the rat, then?
This is a map of the colony of Victoria. What do you read?
ARAT.
And now?
Ballarat.
Quite so. That was the word the man uttered. He was trying to utter the name of his murderer. So-and-so of Ballarat. The possession of a gray garment was a third point. So, we have an Australian from Ballarat with a gray cloak.
But his lameness?
The impression of his right foot was always less distinct than his left. He put less weight upon it, because he limped. His left-handedness, the blow was struck from behind, and yet was upon the left side. How can that be, unless it were by a left-handed man? I also found the ash of an Indian cigar, rolled in Rotterdam. The tip had been cut off, not bitten, with a blunt penknife.
Holmes, you have saved an innocent human life. I see the direction in which all this points. The culprit is
Mr. John Turner.
The man who entered was a strange and impressive figure. His slow, limping step and bowed shoulders gave the appearance of decrepitude, yet his enormous limbs showed unusual strength. His face was of an ashen white. He was in the grip of some deadly disease.
Pray sit down on the sofa. You had my note?
Yes. You said that you wished to see me here to avoid scandal.
Yes, it is so. I know all about McCarthy.
God help me, but I would not have let the young man come to harm. I give you my word, I would have spoken out if it went against him.
I am no official agent. I am acting in your daughter's interests. Young McCarthy must be got off, however.
I am a dying man. I have had diabetes for years, yet I would rather die under my own roof than in a gale.
Just tell us the truth. I shall jot down the facts. You will sign it, and Watson can witness it. I promise I shall not use it unless it is absolutely needed.
You didn't know this dead man, McCarthy. He was a devil incarnate. His grip has been upon me these 20 years. In the early 60s at the diggings in Australia, I became a highway robber. Black Jack of Ballarat was the name I went under. One day we attacked a gold convoy. I put my pistol to the head of the wagon driver, this very man McCarthy. I spared him. We got away with the gold and came to England. I bought this estate, married, and had my dear Alice. All was going well when McCarthy laid his grip upon me. He found me in London. He and his son came to live here rent-free. There was no rest for me. Whatever he wanted, I gave him. Land, money, until at last he asked for Alice. He wanted his lad to marry my girl and step into the whole property, but there I was, firm. I would not have his cursed stock mixed with mine. We were to meet at the pool to talk it over. When I went down there, I found him talking with his son. He was urging his son to marry my daughter with no regard for what she might think. It drove me mad. I am a dying and a desperate man. I knew my own fate was sealed, but my memory and my girl, both could be saved if I could, but silence that foul tongue. I did it, Mr. Holmes. I struck him down. His cry brought back his son, but I had gained the cover of the wood, though I was forced to go back to fetch the cloak I had dropped. That is the true story.
Well, it is not for me to judge you. I pray that we may never be exposed to such a temptation. In view of your health, I shall do nothing. I will keep your confession, and if McCarthy is condemned, I shall be forced to use it. If not, it shall never be seen by mortal eye.
Farewell then. Your own deathbeds will be the easier for the thought of the peace which you have given to mine.
God help us. Why does fate play such tricks with poor, helpless worms? I never hear of such a case that I do not think of Baxter's words and say, "There, but for the grace of God, goes Sherlock Holmes."
James McCarthy was acquitted at the assizes. Old Turner lived for 7 months after our interview, but he is now dead, and there is every prospect that the son and daughter may come to live happily together in ignorance of the black cloud which rests upon their past.